also a sign of good longevity, although they're all still young, in their 70s, still 20, 30 years to go, because I think there's been a very low death rate, and I cannot recall anybody dying of the founders. Another point, demographic point to look around, is gender. Patsy and I were the only people in the first sort of exco. I was kind of an observer, a corresponding, co-rep meeting. There was also perhaps Janet, right? But there were no women. Look around you now. AESOP has been exceedingly friendly to gender equality without making this a big issue. So it has swam along with society. So these are just my demographic resilience points. And then another point on that point is, at some point, a few years down AESOP's history, I recall a conversation with Patsy. She was worried about the fact that gray hair was starting to be predominant among the participants. And look around now, AESOP has managed to take in young generations in a very natural way, but nothing comes natural. This is part of the wisdom of the decision makers. Second point is about the learning curve. During the first conferences, I observed a major discrepancy between the British participants and the continental participants. It has to do with English, but it also has to do with the culture of presenting things orally, which the Brits teach at school much better than the others. It took several years, but look around now, there is no discrepancy. And this has been one of the cross-learning kinds of nurturing that has become something real in AESOP without having to have a big policy about it. It came naturally because of AESOP's inclusiveness and multicultural attributes, and having been inclusive for all schools. On this very point, I also want to say that AESOP's criteria for accepting schools are much more flexible than, say, ACSB, the American association that preceded AESOP. And you must remember that when you have the new kind of quality assessment, the tolerance for a variety of models of planning education, I think, has been one of AESOP's schools. There's great tolerance. Again, on this point of cross-learning, AESOP has been a wonderful receptor for cross-Atlantic and today also cross-continental, many other continent ideas. Planning theory did not exist as a major course in many continental schools 25 years ago or 22 years ago. It does today. So that was a transfer from US, down here, I know Andres Galudi, but the US planning schools are the ones that took on planning theory early on, but there have been many ideas that have transferred backwards to the US, and that was not possible before AESOP's emergence, and AESOP is a wonderful transfer of ideas, again, naturally, without making a big issue of it. Third point is perhaps, second point is about, no, that was a learning curve. I better learn my notes. Third point is about being a breeding ground for new ideas. Now, I think this is perhaps my deepest point in terms of my own thinking. Look around us. Planning is interdisciplinary, we know. But we at AESOP have invented something else. We have invented cross-national. Now, this does not have to be systematic cross-national research, but some of us do, but the minority of us do. It is systematic, having a systematic institution for simply bringing ideas together from people with different languages and different cultures. And this has been absolutely fantastic. Look at the complexity group. Look at other groups such as planning theory, planning law and property rights. There's been one of my own activities, and look at the trans-border thinking that has come out of AESOP. These were nurtured by the fact that we come from so many cultures. I don't know how many other societal academic associations, academic international associations even have this, being both multidisciplinary and very much multicultural, given that AESOP has also taken in people from other continents like me. So that, I think, is really one of the most, the deepest resources of AESOP. It's probably one of the most interdisciplinary and multicultural academic societies in the world. And the last point is about institutional innovation. I've also been active at ACSP, although I have missed many conferences there. And indeed, I was present in ACSP's first conference as well. I myself tried to launch the group that I succeeded in launching at AESOP, the Planning Law and Property Rights track, and then that three of us initiated, Willem Sallet, Ben Davy, and I, and then the Planning Law and Property Rights organization that spun off AESOP. I was not successful in instituting that in the US. And I think this has to do with AESOP's openness to institutional innovation. From that was also the first thematic group. Many thematic groups have been institutionalized. ACSP does not have thematic groups. It has interest groups, but not thematic groups that are really, scholarly groups, innovating in scholarships. AESOP is also the one that invented the PhD seminar. That was in Poland, in Łódź. Poland was then a sort of old new country and new to planning education, and yet it initiated the PhD seminar, which AESOP gave the support, even though it was kind of a newcomer to Europe, to Western Europe's ideas and for planning education. Planning education did not exist as we know it in communist regimes. And yet this has taken off and has been a wonderful resource that the Americans have tried to imitate, not very successfully. And the PhD seminar, too, is this multicultural, not just multidisciplinary, multicultural, multiple language background. AESOP, I think, can be credited to a great extent with the flowering of the GPN, the Global Planning Education Network. I don't think it would have been founded without AESOP's existence. I cannot see the energies, either in the ACSP or the South American Association, which is also quite old, but it has only 1¼ languages. Excuse the Portuguese language. Spanish and related to Spanish. I don't know about the Asian one. It is, by the way, not an Asian association. It's a Far East association. It only includes Far East countries, and I don't think it would have been the great generator, and I don't think ACSP would have done it. So I think AESOP can be credited as being a kind of a subliminal moving partner in this kind of association. So, what do I have to say about new institutional innovations and Europe? Europe is living in a big crisis and a recession now. I'm not European. Europe, to Americans and to many other countries, to Australians, to some South Africans, is the old country. But AESOP has got juvenile attributes of innovation, of tolerance, of cross-learning, and of demographic sustainability. And I think it is the #1 association and is Europe's great news with great global positive externalities. Thank you for making me feel at home in AESOP.
Well, thank you, Rachelle, for these wonderful words of reflections and holding up the